Okay, hi everyone. My name is Amelia Cardenas, and today I'm going to be discussing something that will hopefully inform you to make a better decision. So, with how competitive the job market is these days, we need to be more conscious about where we're going to seek our higher education. The national student debt is currently over $1 trillion, according to the Education Data Initiative. So, we really need to be mindful. So my speech today will inform you about the advantages and disadvantages of going to an in-state school versus an out-of-state school for your higher education. The audience will stand to gain information that will help them make an informed decision about where they want to pursue a higher education. I personally had to do extensive research on the subject when I was accepted to both in-state and out-of-state universities, and I had to weigh the pros and cons to see where I wanted to go. So my main points are going to be the tuition and housing costs, the traveling and distance, and the job prospects. So for tuition and housing, we all know that college tuition can be quite expensive. So one of the first things you should consider when you're trying to pick a college is the financial aspect. Many people cannot afford to pay for college out of pocket, so they turn to scholarships, grants, and loans. The financial aspect is one of the most important things for me personally, and I think for many other students. According to the Education Data Initiative, the average cost of in-state tuition is about $9,349, and out-of-state tuition is about $27,023. So a peer-reviewed thesis from the University of Vermont published in 2016 said that there are several factors that are contributing to the economic, institutional, environmental, and societal factors that are making tuition more expensive. So you can look on slide 3 of the PowerPoint to see a graph of the historic total national student loan debt and how it's been rapidly increasing. So I, along with many other Floridian students, received the Bright Future Scholarship, which is like a statewide scholarship that if you qualify for it, it'll cover your tuition and books for all 4 years of your college education. And I know for myself personally, and for a lot of other students in Florida, this really made us consider going to an in-state school versus an out-of-state school where we wouldn't get this benefit. Furthermore, other states offer statewide scholarships, but if the state you live in does not, then this would kind of even out the financial cost and make an in-state school not much better than an out-of-state school when it comes to finances. So tuition is not the only thing that can make college difficult to afford. The traveling expenses can also quickly add up and put a financial burden on you. Along with the traveling expenses, the distance from home can also lead to homesickness, which can affect your academic performance. So the benefit of an in-state school is that you will probably be closer to home, which means you can visit home more often to help curb homesickness, and traveling will be less expensive because you won't have to spend money on plane tickets or like train tickets as you would have to if you went to an out-of-state school. And so according to the University of Florida, the estimated expenses for traveling for an in-state undergraduate student is about $1,120. And you can see slide 4 of the PowerPoint to see the University of Florida's chart of college expenses for the 2022 to 2023 school year. So for out-of-state students, the cost of traveling, you have to take a plane, a bus, a train, or a car, and that can like easily add up because of gas prices and the cost of tickets. And so a peer-reviewed article published by the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, published in 2014, it analyzed the costs and benefits of giving students in Los Angeles free public transportation. And many people are starting to advocate for this, especially in larger cities, because I personally know that in cities like New York City, they do things like discounted or like free public transportation for students. And so as much as I personally wanted to move to a big city for my college education, I also knew that traveling to and from home would be like very expensive. For example, I got into NYU and UCLA, And both of those places, traveling to them can be extremely expensive because it's like, a popular destination. So I knew not only the financial burden, but also the distance from home would limit how much I could visit my family. And as someone who's very close to my family, that was something that was very important to me. Like I wanted to be very close to my hometown. And I know that many other students at UF who were in-state students, the appeal of UF and other like Florida schools is that we're so close to home. So like when we want to go home for a break or for a weekend, it's just like, like a 3 to 5 hour drive, maybe more if you live further away. So these 2 points focus on what you'll deal with during your college experience, but now I want to talk about something you're going to deal with after you graduate based on what kind of college you decide to attend. So in your job search, the location of your college can affect your job prospects. So when it comes to job prospects, certain colleges do have some benefits. For example, if you live in a city where there's a lot more job opportunities and internship opportunities for your specific major, then the location of your college is going to benefit you much more. And so usually if you don't live in like a state that has these kinds of colleges, like if you don't live in New York or you don't live in like Massachusetts, where, these states are known for their great colleges, then you'll usually have to go out of state to like take advantage of these kinds of locations. So according to a peer-reviewed report from Georgetown University published in 2020, first-year earnings for the same degree can vary by as much as $80,000 based on where you attend college, which means that if you say you attend college in a big city that is really beneficial for your major and like it's like a really prestigious university, you could end up earning more than if you went to another place. And so according to a co-author of this Georgetown University report, he says that this does not need to be a deciding factor, but it could be something you should consider. And you should view college as like an investment because you're going to put in all this money and hard work. So you should really focus on like the amount of benefit you can get from it. But the rise in remote work models, especially with like the pandemic and everything, it's made it possible for us to like tap into job markets that are kind of far from like where we live. And so, reason I struggled with declining my acceptance to NYU and UCLA is because I felt like I was giving up good opportunities because it was not as affordable as UF. But however, I found that living in a college town has its perks because there's lots of job opportunities and internship opportunities. And also it's very nice to live around, other people your age. And so for my undergraduate, I decided to focus on being cost effective. And then for my graduate is what I'm going to do, like what's best for my career and kind of like invest more money. And so to conclude, these points will help you be confident in your decision about where to attend college. The cost of tuition and housing, traveling expenses and distance, and job prospects should form a foundation for your decision. So with this information, hopefully you can join the 94 million Americans who, according to bestcolleges.com, have a some sort of college education without joining the 46 million Americans who, according to Student Loan Hero, have some type of student debt. All right, thank you. And now it's time for our question and answer.
Yeah, I was wondering, what are some ways that students can pay for college if they're in state or out of state?
So I would recommend something that's like federal or maybe some more niche scholarships. For example, you can apply for the FAFSA if you qualify for it, or you can apply for certain scholarships that are directed towards your major or maybe like to a specific group that you're a part of. For example, like I applied to the Hispanic Scholarship Fund because I'm Hispanic. And there's many more like this. Like there's like scholarships for specific demographics, like women in STEM or other things like that. And that is money that, a company or organization will give to you regardless of where you go. Any more questions?
What are some ways students can get help paying for traveling expenses?
So when it comes to paying for traveling expenses, there's many things you can do. Personally, I know that there's like student discounts on buses, such as like Red Coach. You can get a student discount with your student ID. Even some airlines offer student discounts or things like carpooling with your friends. I also know UF has this thing called like the ride board where students will post about where they're going and allow other students to carpool along with them. Anything else?
I was also wondering how the costs of in-state, out-of-state, like how does that transfer to international students? How does that apply to them differently?
Okay, so it's pretty much like where a student from, in this country would consider going to an in-state would be, more like economically sound and like better for them, but then, there's more prospects. It's kind of the same thing. For example, like a student who is international can stay in their country, but if they come to a university here, they might have, more job prospects and like be able to pursue majors and jobs that they otherwise wouldn't be able to pursue. So it's kind of like these three things, like the tuition, housing, the traveling, and how far you'll be from home and like job prospects, but applied to like a more global scale. Anybody else?
So I was just wondering, how does this apply to private universities?
So private universities usually are more expensive and usually don't do like the statewide scholarships. So it's a little bit harder to afford them, but they do have an increase in job prospects. So it's kind of like similar to the in-state versus out-of-state. Public versus private is like a similar thing where you'll be paying more, but it might be a better investment unless you know what you're doing at a public university, which might be more financially beneficial. Anything else? No? All right. Well, thank you guys.